This is the Nintendo Switch 2 and it's been through one hell of a journey. Leaks, rumors, delay after delay until we finally got it. But even then, we still have twists. That must-have day one update, pricing of the games, which got everyone looking at Nintendo like. But we still went ahead and got it. On the flip side of all the pre-launch drama, Nintendo actually did upgrade a bunch of stuff. But they also made some choices that are, let's just say, wildly questionable. So the real question is this the upgrade we've been holding out for since Nintendo dropped the O.GSwitch back in 2017? Or did Nintendo switch lens entirely? Let's unbox it, test it out, and talk about what's better and some of the questionable choices. Now, before we get into all the specs and the shiny new features, let's talk about the first real moment of impact, the unboxing. Opening the box, you can tell Nintendo has grown up. While the packaging is still predominantly red like the O.GSwitch, inside the colors toned down a bit. This time it's sleeker, minimal, and the kind of unboxing that feels intentional, almost Apple-like. The flap lifts with a satisfying pull and boom, there it is. The Switch 2 front and center with the Joy-Cons on the side. They rest neatly in their molded slots and you can clearly see the size increase. Lifting the console out, it's lighter than you expect but feels quite solid. Underneath you get a redesigned dock that's actually elegant. It's slightly bigger compared with the previous gen and comes with rounded edges and a cooling fan around the back. Before I forget, you've also got the usual suspects, a charging cable and a brick, Joy-Con straps which come in handy when you decide to use them as a mouse and when playing with friends, then a HDMI cable to connect when in docked mode. No clutter, no awkward folds, just clean presentation. And just when you think the unboxing couldn't get any better, you turn on the screen and yeah, this is where it hits different. The display, it's not the same as what you had on the O.GSwitch. It's not just bigger, it's not just brighter, it feels alive. But before you get any further, you'll have to install the update file. Size-wise, we are looking at a 7.9-inch LCD screen with smaller bezels compared to the O.GSwitch. Even though it's not an OLED, it's got that extra color punch compared to the O.GSwitch. Now, here's the underrated hero, brightness. The new panel cranks up to 450 nits, which is a slight improvement compared to the 370 nits on the O.GSwitch. And the refresh rate? This is where Nintendo low-key surprised everyone. While docked, it still caps off at 60 Hz, but when in handheld mode, there is variable refresh rate now. It's subtle but buttery smooth, especially when you're coming off from the choppiness of older titles. Resolution holds out at 1080p. Yes, not 4K. But here's the thing. That screen size increase combined with dynamic upscaling makes everything feel sharper. But let's be honest, for screen size like this, a combination of OLED and 4K would have been the best, but 1080p still does the job. Okay, so it looks great, but the question is, can it keep up? When I first booted up Mario Kart, I was expecting, well, the same old Switch lag here and there, but no, Nintendo has upgraded the internals and it shows. Inside, you've now got the custom NVIDIA Tegra chip, codenamed Drake. It's got better thermals, a more efficient GPU, and most importantly, DLSS support. Now, let's talk about this for a second. For those who don't know, DLSS is kind of AI magic. What it basically does is it renders games at lower resolutions, then upscales them with almost zero quality loss, which means more frames, less heat, and better battery life without compromising visuals. In short, games that used to dip to 30 FPS now can hit a clean 60 FPS, and some can even push dynamic 90 Hz when docked, thanks to that upscaling. Now, even though images can be upscaled, loading times have been cut in half, and you can see the difference when you load Mario Kart on the O.GSwitch and the Switch 2. And the input latency? Better. Not PS5 level yet, but the new Joy-Con's responsiveness is faster and noticeable in games that rely on twitch reflexes. Okay, so it's powerful, it's sleek, but what's the catch? Is it battery life? That's usually where all the firepower gets humbled, but this time Nintendo did something unexpected. Where the original Switch would tap out after around 3 hours in high performance mode, with the Switch 2 I managed to squeeze nearly 5 hours in high performance mode, full brightness, and jumping between Mario Kart and YouTube. That's almost twice the battery life of the O.GSwitch, and it gets even more interesting. The new Switch has a C button, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. When it comes to portability, it really surprised me, as you'd expect it to be heavier given the size increase, the new hardware, but if you'd ask me, it's actually not that heavy compared to the O.GSwitch. Now, even though it's a few grams added here and there in your bag, on a flight, that weight difference wouldn't be any significant. Did I mention the new kickstand? It's finally upgraded. Now it's adjustable like the one in the older model. Whether you're gaming at a cafe, slouched in a couch, or sneakily playing in the kitchen, the Nintendo Switch 2 adapts. Now, if you've ever owned a Switch before, you know exactly what I'm about to say. Joy-Con drift. Yes, that one flaw that turned Mario Kart into a horror game and put Nintendo into the courts. Yeah, Joy-Con drift led to lawsuits. Luckily, they were dismissed, and after that, Nintendo got the message loud and clear. They didn't just patch the issue, they reimagined the hardware. These new Joy-Cons feel dense, like they actually mean business. The finish is matte with a slightly textured grip, so no more slipping during those sweaty Mario Kart finals. The joysticks, now they're using magnetic Hall effect sensors, which basically means no physical contact points to wear out. But don't take my word for it. Let's give it a couple of weeks, maybe months, and see how well it does. Something that will do well straight away are the little upgrades on the Joy-Cons. Starting with the SR and SL buttons, they're now bigger and made of metal, which helps them magnetically attach to the screen. If you'd ask me, I think this is better compared to the sliding in and out of the O.GSwitch. Removing them is also super easy. Simply press the button on the back and pull it out. Another interesting feature of the Joy-Cons is the ability to use them as a mouse in compatible games and even just general use. As for the dock, it's sleeker, sharper, more rounded, and get this, it now comes with a built-in fan. If you thought it's a noisy one, it's whisper quiet, like you can't even hear it over your kart party. Now, remember I mentioned the C button a little earlier? Well, when you press it, it brings up the game chat menu. This enables you to chat with your friends online or turn on screen sharing to see each other's gameplay. The only problem, on Nintendo's demo, it was a bit laggy and their resolution was also not the best. That's something Nintendo will have to fix in the not so distant future. Now, as much as the Joy-Cons stole the spotlight, there's a silent MVP, and for the most part, it will be sitting on your TV stand. That's the dock. I talked about it in passing a little earlier, and at first glance it looks minimal, but don't let that simplicity fool you. This thing is smarter than it lets on. For starters, Ethernet is now built in. No more dangling adapters just to get a decent multiplayer ping. Whether you're battling in Zelda Tears of the Wild or racing ghosts in Mario Kart, this thing is stable. And speaking of stability, there's a subtle but important upgrade: active cooling. Yep, there's now a whisper quiet fan built into the dock. And I know I talked about it a little earlier in passing. We'll go into detail now. That means longer sessions in docked mode without throttling your frame rate or cooking your Switch. This is especially useful now that some games will be hitting that 1080p at 60 FPS. On the back, you've got USB-C power delivery support with a cleaner cable routing system. I just like how they've hidden the ports behind a hinged panel, which makes everything look clean. Speaking of ports, the display out now supports up to 4K upscaling. Now, I get it's not true native 4K, but even then, Mario looks like he had a skincare routine upgrade. Now, upgrading a console always brings up one terrifying question. Will my old games still work? In the case of the Switch 2, yes, they do. In fact, not only do they work, they play better. The new architecture under the hood is built for backwards compatibility. Your digital library is still there. Your cartridges still plug and play. Here's the kicker. Some older games automatically take advantage of the new power. Think faster loading times, smoother frame rates, better battery optimization, and third-party support better than ever. Having gone through most of the obvious upgrades, here are the upgrades most people won't talk about. First up is the chipset. Gone is the aging Tegra X1. Inside the Switch 2, you now get a custom NVIDIA chip based on the Ampere architecture. To put it simply, it's like going from a bicycle to a sports bike. You immediately feel it. Games load faster and the menus are snappier. Another important update you most likely haven't heard of is Bluetooth 5.2 is now native, which means no more dongles just to connect your AirPods. You've also got Wi-Fi 6 support, meaning faster and more stable online play. Alright, time to address the elephant in the room, aka the price of the console and games. For us in Australia, you'll have to part ways with $699 just for the console. Now, toss in a Mario Kart bundle, an extra pair of Joy-Cons, and a screen protector, even though Nintendo says it comes with one. You're now looking at 1,000 Australian dollars easy. Now, let's compare that to the PS5 Slim. You get a controller, 1TB SSD, 4K gaming for just 750 Australian dollars. So yeah, get the Switch 2 and the Mario Kart bundle and you've got the PS5 Slim and enough change to get some sushi and a stress ball for when your Joy-Cons start drifting into the void. To make things worse, the Nintendo Welcome Tour will cost you close to 15 Australian dollars. For those who don't know what it is, it essentially helps you learn the different controls of the Switch. Kind of what Astro's Playroom does on the PlayStation. But come on Nintendo, you didn't have to charge for it. Well, there you have it guys. Let me know in the comments if you'll be upgraded. That aside, I hope you enjoyed and found this video helpful. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and click the notification bell to get notified whenever I post a new video. Here's another video that you'll most likely enjoy. Until then, people of the internet, see you over here.